Central Arkansas. Today's video is about garden planning. And I start planning with just that. I plan what I'm going to grow, and then I put it on paper, solidify it, move it around over time. I get it about where I want it, and then I put them in trays. Now, I've already recorded the part in the house showing the layout and what I'm planting and all that, and I've talked about it already, but I wanted to show my face and tell you and show you some of the trays and the plants that are going to end up going in that plan that we're going to talk about. I'll inject them into the video. First thing is the trays. I'm using two different types of tray. This is the first type. This is a 32 cell. It's got 8 this way, 4 this way, and it's got these little pots that plug right into them like that. That way, you could take one out, leave all the rest available, and you can go out and plant it or what have you, and it'll still be getting water. So I really like this one. These come from Bootstrap Farmer. That's the bottom. It's an insert that fits into a standard 10-20 tray. I also use Bootstrap Farmer for these because they're heavy duty. So that's the 32 cell you'll see in the upcoming video, or a little bit later in this video. The second one is the one I've had for a couple, 3 years. I'm not sure exactly how long, but it's been a while. This is 72 cell, and I've got several videos where I use this. And what I do is I plant in these, and I use a fork, and I stick it along the side here, and I pop a plug out at a time, and I'll plant those in the garden. So those are the two trays. It's also an insert into the 10-20, and both of these are also from Bootstrap Farmer. Okay, so those are the trays that I talk about in a little bit later in this video. And now I want to show you some of the plants that are going to go into the garden that are currently growing right now. I've touched on them a little bit in the last video or two inside the winter grow room, but now I'm going to show you specifically, and I'll inject these into the Excel spreadsheet, which is going to be in video format, and show you what I'm talking about. Okay? Hey everybody, this is Brent in Central Arkansas. I'm going to do a video on preparing for my spring garden, both the no-weed garden and a new area of the garden that is an outside hydroponic area. More on that coming up. But the first part that I do, the first thing I consider is how much vegetables I need for the season, what I want to grow, what my end goals are going to be, and where I'm going to plant them. And once I figure that out, I set them into various trays to begin to grow. So my last frost date here is April the 8th to the 23rd, depending on which site you go to. Whether it's the Almanac or, well, just there's a lot of them that you can go to, and you just put your zip code in there, and they'll kind of give you an expectation on when to expect your last frost. And when I go to plant, I always have targeted that last frost, but what I've actually found is that is really too soon. So I have various things, squash and all the summer spring vegetables that just struggle for a couple 3 weeks until the real good weather comes. So this year I'm going to fight the temptation to get out there early, and I'm going to target right here 1 May. Once I've figured out the target date, which I have, 1 May, I'm going to back it up the number of days so that I can get 6 weeks for the tomato, which will give me about 15 March there. And normally I would go 8 weeks for peppers and eggplants, but because I'm saving the seed from my existing peppers that are growing in the winter grow room, I won't be able to plant them out, start them until they are actually red ripe, where I collect the seeds, and then I can start the seeds once they're dried out. So I kind of put 15 March here as an expectation of when I can harvest the seeds from those. But what I've got here, the top 5 32 cell trays. You know, they got the little 2 by 2, I believe it is, about 1.5 to 2 inches by 1.5 to 2 inches. I'm not exactly sure of the measurements, but they fit inside the tray. And I'll show those trays to you. And I've also got my ones I use quite often, which is a 72 cell tray. I'll also show that one. Okay, when we went on our last RV trip, we went through, we went up to Michigan, then over across Ontario into Niagara, and then on into Maine, New Brunswick, and then Nova Scotia, which was our final destination. While I was in Nova Scotia, I came across a seed that I got out of a grocery store. I really like the look of the tomato. So what I'm going to do is trying to see if I can kind of dehybridize it. And I call it Nova Scotia. It didn't have a name. It came out of the grocery store. I've also got a tomato here that's it's heat tolerant. I call it Summer, the F2. It's an F2 generation for me. I'm going to grow those out. This is Succeed. It's an open pollinated, or very close to open pollinated. I haven't been able to keep exact records on that because I have to keep going backwards in time to pick the previous generation, because the one that I was trying to save wasn't ideal, so I had to go back in time and regrow it. Lacey is about the same. It's near open pollinated. It's a great red tomato, and Succeed is a dark tomato of mine. I'm also going to grow Legend and Salites. These are Oregon State University tomatoes that are supposed to do real well in very cold and very hot environments. They'll set tomatoes even when they don't get pollinated. So I want to see how that works out for me. Because during the dead heat of summer, I don't hardly get any growth because my tomato blooms keep dropping. In this one, this tray here, I've got an orange cherry tomato that's the 4th generation. It's named after my wife. I've got my cherry tomato that I like a lot. It's now open pollinated. This Niagara, this is really interesting here. When we were in Niagara Falls, we stayed on the Canadian side, which is it's the better part of Niagara Falls, in my opinion. There's more stuff over there. But we stayed in the campground on the Canadian side. I can't remember the name of the campground, but there was a couple. There was actually 2 couples in one Class C RV, and I chatted with them quite a bit. And the guy said that he brought over a tomato of his that he said he's been growing for years, and he wanted to give me a tomato, which I thought was kind of cool. He didn't know I was into gardening or anything like that. He just asked me if I wanted one of his tomatoes, and I said sure, and I saved his seed. So that one I'm calling Niagara. I don't remember the guy's name. I don't know if it was a variety of some sort or not. He said it was his tomato. Also, I've got Big Beef here that I've attempted to dehybridize for the past 4 or 5 years, and I keep getting paste type tomatoes, so I know Big Beef has got paste in it somewhere. But I'm at the F3 generation. I'm going to try to regrow these and see if I can get what I've been trying to get, which was the F2 seed, which is a beautiful little tomato. We'll see if that works. So I'm going to grow 8 more just because it's only 8 and I can. Okay, and this cell tray I've got Big Zack. This is an open pollinated version, so it's not really Big Zack. Big Zack is a hybrid of 2 old heirlooms. It's a really big tomato, but it's a hybrid, and someone had taken a really large Big Zack grow out, and they grew it for several generations, and it's now an open pollinated. They say it's Big Zack, but That's not what happens if you save the seed for a while, because Big Zack's from a cross of 2 parents, and if once you get it to open pollinated, it's no longer either one of the parents, it's its own thing. And this is, if you're watching my winter grow room, this is baby beef. I'm going to grow 16 of that for the next generation. This line here I think is right at F6 or I think this, when I grow it out this time, it'll be F7, 7th generation. So I anticipate it's going to be very much like what you've seen in the winter grow room over the last few weeks. Down here I've got Donovan and Pink Crush. You've seen Donovan grown. I've shown that a few times in the winter grow room, and Pink Crush is the one currently growing. I'm liking the way that's looking right now, so I'm going to save seed from both of those. And the Pink Crush might not be ready until even after my target start date. Well, I know it won't be, so those get started even later. Let's see what we got here. This is the eggplant and pepper 32 cells. I'm growing a California Brine again. My eggplant hybrid, which is Makito. This is the cross I've talked about in the winter grow room. It's a cross of 2 different peppers, and this one it's Cali Pal and this one's Cali Lip, and that's just the first 3 letters of the 2 different varieties. I'm growing 5 of those, and my bell pepper 2 that I'm going to call Just a Bell. And Just a Bell, I'm going to grow 5 of those. All right, a lot of talking going on, but I'm just covering what I'm going to grow. And then the next video or so, I'll show me planting them out and potentially sterilizing and that sort of thing. So continuing on, this is a 72 cell tray. I'm going to put 72 individual seeds in this one, and this is going to be Dawn. Dawn is the generation that came from BCF3, meaning it's BC are the 2 parents and F3 is the 3rd generation, so Dawn is the 4th generation. I like Dawn, but I want to grow out the previous generation again, parts of it, to see if I can get some that are even better than Dawn. Regardless, all of these are from Dawn. It's just identified differently because they're 2 different generations. This is Orange Crush. Orange Crush is a tomato that I grew in the no-weed garden last year. It's a sister to Pink Crush, except this one's orange obviously and this one's pink. And I'm going to grow out a bunch of those. Katie Ann here is also a 72 cell tray, and Katie Ann is an attempt at aroma type. Last year the cross, the 1st generation cross hybrid, in other words, was bigger than a plum tomato but a little smaller than aroma tomato, pointed. And this is a cross of San Marzano Redorta with my cherry tomato. And I've got 2 examples growing right now, but that's not enough. And so I'm going to mass plant these out because I want to try to get one that's a little bigger than what I had from the hybrid last year. And I should be able to get some from it. These last 2 are a red and an orange from 2 different tomatoes. Both parents were the same in both, but I had an example of an orange and an example of red, and that's what's in those 2. So that's what I'm doing to start. What you're looking at right here is the plan for my cells. You know, the little planters that you put under grow lights, and then you begin the plants. They become seedlings and then transplants, and you put them out in the garden. And that's the first step. On the next video, or the next few videos probably, I'll cover how they make it eventually out into the garden. This is Brent, you guys. We'll see you later.